Is China challenging U.S. supremacy in space? And is Beijing hiding its military presence there through its civilian programs?
NASA's new Artemis rocket will one day carry astronauts back to the lunar surface.
For decades, the United States have led the charge in space exploration, fueling humanity's drive to explore the stars, set foot on the moon, and send rovers to Mars. But with a new era of the space race now upon us, a disturbing shift is underway. China, with its rapid advancements and growing ambitions, now aims to dominate this final phase. And while competition has always driven innovation, NASA insiders are now sounding the alarm and warning that the United States is presently sleepwalking into a disastrous strategy. A strategy that could not only risk her dominance in space, but effectively hand control over to China on a silver platter. How did we get here? And why is NASA now warning of a looming catastrophe? So join us as we dissect NASA's grave warning and expose the growing risks of underestimating China's ambitions. And the big question on everyone's lips right now is who will be the next human to step onto the moon? And will they speak English or Mandarin? It's an intriguing thought, especially considering that between 1969 and 1972, 12 Americans made history by walking on the lunar surface. But now things are heating up again as both the United States and China are ramping up their space programs and aiming to send humans back to the moon within this decade. Any space enthusiast would recall in December 2019, President Donald J. Trump made a landmark decision by signing a massive $738 billion defense bill, marking a major milestone for the United States. This bill didn't just cover defense spending, it made history by officially establishing the Space Force as an entirely new, sixth branch of the U.S. military. This new branch is tasked with protecting U.S. interests in space, reflecting how essential space had become for the everyday lives of every American, the U.S. economy, and U.S. national security as a whole. According to Defense Secretary Mark Esper, as the United States' reliance on space grows, so does the need to defend it. From satellite networks that power our GPS systems to the secure communications that support the U.S. military, space plays a huge role in keeping everything running smoothly. The Space Force was therefore created to ensure that no hostile power threatens the space infrastructure that the U.S. depend on every day. But for the United States, the journey back hasn't been so straightforward. Their lunar program, Artemis, is facing delays. Some essential components, like the spacesuits and the lunar lander, just aren't quite ready. In contrast, China has confidently announced that it plans to put its astronauts, or taikonauts, on the moon by 2030. And China especially has a track record of sticking to its deadlines. This is one scenario that only a few years ago would have seemed like science fiction. Yet here we are with the very real possibility that China might actually land astronauts on the moon before the United States, challenging the lead that America once seemed to hold unchallenged. So who will get there first, and why does it even matter? You see, the U.S. moon program, Artemis, is ambitious. NASA, the space agency leading the mission, has teamed up with other countries and private companies to help spread the cost and pool resources. The plan? It's equally just as simple. A series of missions, each building on the one before, ultimately leading to a new lunar landing. In November 2022, NASA launched the Artemis 1 mission, sending its Orion spacecraft on a trip around the moon, though without any astronauts on board. Artemis II is presently set for late 2025. This mission will be similar to the first, except this time, Orion will carry a crew of 4 astronauts on a journey around the moon, though they won't be landing just yet. That monumental moment is saved for Artemis III. In this third mission, NASA plans to send a man and, for the first time, a woman to the moon's surface. Not only that, but one of these astronauts will also be the first person of color to set foot on the moon. With all these plans in motion, it's anyone's guess who will get there first. But one thing is certain, the race to return to the moon is on, and it's shaping up to be as exciting as ever. Artemis 30 was supposed to take off this year, but delays have pushed it back again and again. After a review in December 2023, experts gave it only a 1 in 3 chance of launching by February 2028. Right now, the earliest target for the mission is September 2026. But even that date isn't guaranteed. On the other hand, China's space program seems to be blazing ahead with impressive speed. Unlike NASA, they haven't faced major setbacks or delays. In April 2024, Chinese space officials announced confidently that they're on track to send their astronauts to the moon by 2030. Some space experts have noted that this rapid progress is truly remarkable for a country that only sent its first astronaut into space in 2003. Since 2011, China has been steadily running space stations and achieving major milestones with its Chang'e lunar exploration missions. They've been tackling one challenge after another and making strides that many never expected to see so soon. These robotic missions didn't just gather rocks and dust from the moon's surface, they also brought back samples from its mysterious far side. Along the way, they've helped test out technology that could be essential when it comes time for humans to land there. The next step? A bold mission to touch down at the lunar South Pole, an area that's capturing a lot of attention. Why? Because in the cold, shadowed craters of this region lies something truly valuable: water ice. This water ice isn't just interesting to scientists, it's a potential game changer for future lunar bases. Water can support life, providing drinking water and even oxygen. And with a bit of chemistry, it can be split to make rocket fuel, which would be far cheaper to produce on the moon than to haul all the way from Earth. Lowering these costs could make it easier and more affordable for humans to explore the moon on a larger scale. That's a big part of why the upcoming Artemis 3 mission aims to land at the South Pole. It's the perfect spot to start building a sustainable presence. In fact, both the US and China plan to establish bases in this very region. Just recently, on September 28, 2024, China unveiled a sleek advanced spacesuit for its future lunar astronauts, often called selenauts, designed to handle the moon's wild temperature swings and shield wearers. From harsh solar radiation, this new suit is both lightweight and flexible. But here's the twist: is China starting to take the lead in this new space race? Meanwhile, Axiom Space, the company building the Artemis moonsuit for NASA, is making adjustments to meet NASA's requirements. The competition for the moon is now heating up more than ever, with every move from each side being closely watched around the world. The lander that will eventually carry American astronauts from lunar orbit down to the moon's surface is facing delays too. Back in 2021, NASA awarded Elon Musk's SpaceX the job of building this lander. SpaceX's design is based on their ambitious Starship, a massive 50-meter-long spacecraft that launches atop the world's most powerful rocket. On October 13, 2024, Starship achieved an important milestone with its 5th successful test flight. But there's still a long road ahead before it can safely carry astronauts to the lunar surface. Starship can't just fly straight to the moon, it needs a refueling pit stop first. Once launched into Earth's orbit, it will be topped off by other Starship vehicles acting as fuel tankers. SpaceX must prove this tricky refueling maneuver and complete an uncrewed test landing on the moon before the highly anticipated Artemis 3 mission can move forward. Meanwhile, NASA is addressing another crucial issue. During Artemis I, Orion's heat shield sustained significant damage as it re-entered Earth's atmosphere at scorching temperatures. NASA's engineers are racing to develop a fix before the upcoming Artemis 2 mission to ensure the astronauts aboard can return safely. Some critics have equally identified that Artemis is just too complicated. They point to the complex plan of getting astronauts and a moonlander together in lunar orbit, the huge number of independent companies working on different parts, and the high number of launches required just for refueling. Depending on who you ask, it could take anywhere from 4 to as many as 15 Starship launches to fuel up Artemis III. Former NASA Administrator Michael Griffin has suggested a simpler approach, one more in line with how China plans to reach the moon. In his view, NASA would work mostly with trusted, longtime partners like Boeing instead of newer players like SpaceX. But simpler doesn't always mean better or cheaper. Apollo may have been a straightforward program, but it also cost nearly 3 times more than Artemis. And SpaceX has proven itself to be not only more efficient, but also far cheaper than Boeing when it comes to sending crews to the International Space Station. So while Griffin's approach might look more streamlined, there's strong evidence that SpaceX's innovative methods could be the smarter, more economical path forward. Some experts have also noted that developing groundbreaking technology isn't about sticking to safe, tried and tested methods. It's about taking bold steps, pushing boundaries, and daring to explore the unknown. The James Webb Space Telescope, with its complex folded mirror and its far-flung position in space, is a prime example of this adventurous spirit. This extraordinary telescope allows scientists to peer into the deepest parts of the universe like never before, opening doors to discoveries we once thought impossible. And with ambitious goals on the horizon, like mining asteroids or even setting up a colony on Mars. Innovation is more essential than ever. But does it matter if the first people of the 21st century to land on the moon are American or Chinese? The answer ties deeply into how governments interact with their citizens and how countries see each other. For democratic nations, public support is essential to secure funding for these massive long-term projects. And prestige or national pride plays a big role in winning that support. However, in this new era, prestige won't come from being first to arrive, but from getting it right. Rushing to the moon without caution could bring huge costs, both in terms of money and human safety. More importantly, governments should approach this new era of space exploration responsibly. They need to set an example that's built on peace, inclusion, and sustainability. Returning to the moon shouldn't be about claiming dominance or showing off power. Instead, it's an opportunity to prove that we can handle our role in the universe with greater care and wisdom than we often have here on Earth.